everyone. So, something tremendously funny happened.
And somewhat pathetic, honestly.
Ooh. Kisses is right.
I just gotta say it. I do.
You hate to see it. Chappelle tells high schoolers, "I'm better than you," when they call him a childish bigot. Let's get our headphones. This is gonna be our...
Well, this whole thing gets better of like... You're like an accomplished...
Congratulations, you played yourself. Like, that's what this...
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do a sound check, make sure that's all working.
Transphobic comedian Dave Chappelle recently spoke at his high school alma mater, the Duke Ellington School of the Arts in Washington, D.C. While he was there, at least one student called him childish and a bigot. He responded by telling the students, "I'm better than all of you."
So I just want you to think about this. A grown-ass man had to tell himself he was better than a bunch of high schoolers, and the high schoolers won.
Chappelle spoke at the high school following the outcry against his transphobic Netflix comedy stand-up special, The Closer. In it, Chappelle announces that he's a transgender exclusionary radical feminist, TERF, and launched into a derogatory diatribe about transgender women's genitals.
It's true, he compared them to the Impossible Burger, which directly infers that we're not women, and does direct harm. We've talked about this.
About 580 students packed into the school's auditorium to talk with the comedian for about an hour, Politico reported. One student called Chappelle a bigot, adding, "I'm 16 and I think you're childish. You handled criticism over your transphobic remarks like a child."
Based and transpilled kid.
"With all due respect,
right?
I don't believe you could make one of the decisions I have to make on a given day." Students said that Chappelle belittled their questions and comments by laughing at them and responding with jokes. Chappelle later told the students, "I'm better than every instrumentalist, artist, no matter what art you do in this school, right now, I'm better than all of you."
Damn.
He added that some of the students would be household names one day.
That's weirdly not wholesome, but go off, I guess. So again, let's be very clear. These kids were forced into assembly with him, and they're going to talk about this in a minute, but they take their phones. They got rid of their phones. They didn't let them have phones so they couldn't record shit. And these kids still... So first off, that's just a childish move. But not only was it a childish move, and I love that for him, but also the fact is it didn't work. They still immediately schooled him. You'd love to see it.
He also used the N-word when one student said that his transphobic tropes contribute to the death of transgender people.
True.
Chappelle said that black people are killed every day.
True.
One parent expressed outrage over the school tolerating such language, regardless of the speaker.
Fair.
While Chappelle seemed to soften up and become kinder to the students near the end of his talk, he singled out one female student for criticizing him and then walking out early when she had enough. "It was a huge power imbalance of this grown man and his camera crew and these 14 to 18-year-olds without their phones, just high school kids," one student told the aforementioned publication.
So these kids didn't have their phones, which is a giant red flag, as Life Must Exist just said. But on top of it, the kids still won. Like, that happened.
A spokesperson from the school said that Chappelle's supporters were a silent majority in the audience and that the comedian's critics were prioritized for the Q&A portion of the chat. Chappelle's spokesperson said that the comedian has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for Duke Ellington. The comedian spokesperson said, Chappelle said these kids deserve an F for forgiveness. Give them some space to grow. They are going to say things that are immature.
You would know.
Earlier this year, the school announced they are temporarily postponing a fundraiser, an event where the school's theater will be renamed after Chappelle. The event will be held in April 2022.
School might need to refigure out their fundraisers.
Yeah, so they raised money to get a auditorium, a fucking stage set up. And the theater was going to be named after Chappelle, and then Chappelle kind of stuck his foot in his mouth, and then he whined about being, canceled. So let's talk about this. So what I think is very important to recognize here is that this is tremendously funny. Particularly because this is a man who, based on all evidence, we know from other articles, and we could go over those if we wanted. In fact, can someone find me this for chat while I'm talking? Can you find me the article where we found out that he was a little bit dishonest about his trans friend? Someone can find me that and put it in chat. I would really appreciate it. But here's the thing. This man went into a room full of children with his own camera crew. They had no cameras. And these kids basically told him what he didn't want to hear. That this isn't about canceling. No one's trying to cancel you, Dave. It's that you said some really awful things about another marginalized group, and it kind of makes you look bad.
Sorry, I got tangled.
It's okay. So the problem is that with a situation like this, it kind of lays bare the problems with people who do this, right? Essentially, Dave claims, I'm going to get canceled like he's some big rebel, but then gets butthurt when, kids call him out for this. And then he tries to play the big adult routine of, they should be given forgiveness. I'm not mad at those kids. Really?
Forgiveness starts with an F. Like how you should all fail right now. Like, what the...
F for forgiveness. I've never heard that, but it's dumb as hell.
Chappelle, I'm pretty sure you get an F. Just saying.
If you haven't seen FT Signifier's video on Dave Chappelle yet, you should. It's great. I also know a couple of videos came out from Cat Black. Also great. But let's be clear. I'm not going to go into a huge diatribe of what we should or should not do about Dave Chappelle, because we can't cancel him. We are not going to kick him off of social media if whatever. But we can, in our communities, not tolerate this stuff. This school, based on the majority of their students, made a decision that he was not, in any way, shape, or form, right in what he did. Now, I'm asking chat to find this, but from what I remember, there's an article that came out that basically made the claim that a lot of the stuff that Dave said about his trans friend, the reason why he basically said he gets the T slur pass, I don't know, whatever. The reason he had the ability to talk about these things, the joke being is that apparently he's been dishonest with that. Now, I want to get the specific article because I want to look into it. I can look on my end, but I want you guys to understand this is that... Ooh. Let's see if this is what I want. Ooh, here we got something. And a boop. So, let's go. We got a Twitter post. Dave Chappelle lied in the closer about Daphne Dorman being Twitter bullied, speedrun edition. TW suicide. Contemporary screenshots screenshots posted in tweets from separate users 2 days after Daphne's death show there were only 9 replies to her punching down tweet when she died. Thanks to the Internet Archive, we can jump back to 3 weeks before Daphne's death, and she had 9 replies then too. Jump back in time another week to 4 weeks from before Daphne died, and she still only has 9 replies to Daphne's punching down tweet, the one where she said that he wasn't punching down. Then, and these are, by the way, all screenshotted, love that for him. Gotta love receipts. Then, just to bring the point home, let's hop back. Contemporary screenshot posted 9 weeks before Daphne's death, 2 days after she posted the punching down tweet with a 1-day Twitter timestamp on the screenshot, no less. This is how someone handles a joke. You, sir, clearly lack a sense of humor if you get upset over a joke from a comedian. What I'm saying is Daphne Dorman has more balls than you. Oh, hate that. But only 4 replies to the original tweet. Not the one below. We can't see that. But to the original one. Punching down requires you to consider yourself superior to the group. No, it doesn't. It's just social power. Holy crap. Daphne's friends responds. Ooh, let's see what we got here. Yeah, So we're going to keep going through this while that loads. The trans community didn't bully Daphne Dorman for defending Dave Chappelle on Twitter. That part of Dave's story was unkind slander against a marginalized community. Netflix gave him a huge platform without fact-checking. This Trans Awareness Week, Stop Spreading the Lie. Dave Chappelle's the closer. When Six and Stones came out, a lot of people in the trans community were furious with me, and apparently they dragged me on Twitter. I don't give a fuck because Twitter isn't a real place, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to be the person to ever say that, like, the trans community on Twitter can't be harsh or toxic. They absolutely can. But can we be honest and say very clearly that this wasn't on them? I'll give them crap for the attack helicopter story. I'll give them crap for Contra. But this is not on us. Thank you. So this is from Mia Satya. This is from a friend. This is a public post, so I don't feel bad sharing it. But this is from a friend of Daphne's. Daphne's story continued. Trigger warner, ramble warning. This is going to piss some people off, but I ran out of fucks to give when Daphne died. TLDR, too long didn't want to read. I beg you not to watch Dave Chappelle's special. Today has been 2 years since Daphne chose to end her life. I don't say committed suicide because committed implies that it's a crime. It seems surreal that she missed the COVID pandemic, Tiger King, the insurrection, and so many moments from her friends' lives. I miss her jokes and know that she would have made COVID quarantine so much more bearable for many folks that appreciated her humor on social media. People ask me if she killed herself because of Dave Chappelle, henceforth DC, mentioning his 2019 special because she ended her life 1 week after it came out. Daphne met DC at a comedy club while he was performing. He was telling controversial jokes and she was laughing because she always had a dark sense of humor. But Daphne never told racist jokes or punched down on groups of people. She used humor to heal pain. She told self-deprecating jokes and used humor to educate people about trans issues. She never used humor to be hateful. Okay, fair enough. Before DC's 2019 special, he really buttered her up, promising to mentor her and take her under his wing. I was suspicious of his antics and didn't really appreciate his style of humor, but I was happy if Daphne was happy. I watched part of DC's 2019 special when it came out because Daphne was so excited for it, but I couldn't even finish it because I felt so offended for different marginalized groups. But I didn't want to criticize it because I knew Daphne was excited for the shout-out, even though the mention of her was so quick you could miss it. Then after Daphne died, it was crickets from Dave Chappelle for months and years after it happened. When a group of her theater comedy friends threw a memorial for her in San Francisco, DC's didn't say anything. When her funeral in Pennsylvania happened a couple months later, DC's team hadn't reached out to her family or friends or family. When we planned another memorial for her in San Francisco, we didn't hear anything from his team. It was like if he said something about her, he would have admitted he was responsible for her death. I'm not going to say I know for sure 100% that Dave Chappelle making fun of Daphne in his 2019 special is what caused her death. I don't think it's what was the main cause, but who knows? Daphne had PTSD from a lifetime of trauma, and she battled suicidal thoughts for years. I think the final blow was a combination of her lost custody of her daughter, losing her job, and dealing with a lot of transphobic harassment on the streets of San Francisco. I lived with her, and yet I didn't know how bad she was feeling. I heard from a friend that Dave Chappelle mentioned her last year in his comedy special routine, and he mentioned how he let her open for one of his stand-up routines, but that she bombed it. For him to patronize her, demean her, and minimize her talent after her death is cruel, crass, For him to invoke her name as a free pass to continue being transphobic is beyond fucked up. So that happened. The simple fact is, guys, is that transphobes will find any way to justify their bigotry, because that's what it is. It's bigotry. Race realists use that as a way to justify their hatred of other races. Transphobes find every way to attack us because they want to justify their hatred towards us. This is just the truth. Now, this is tremendously funny in the sense that Dave Chappelle got schooled by a bunch of kids. On the other hand, I think we really need to strongly consider how we want to deal with things like this in the future, because we need to have people do this kind of internet digging. When someone makes a claim like this that's trying to, in some way, justify their hatred, we need to call them out on it. J.K. Rowling claimed that they doxed her house, and this is not going to stop her from talking about sex-based rights. Except she wasn't doxed. Her house was on, like, Google.
On Wikipedia.
Yeah. And in the same way here, Dave tried to use this woman's life as a way to justify it when it sounds like he had literally the smallest relationship with her and used her as a fucking shield and then didn't want to speak up when she died. The thing that sucks, too, is he's using a dead person to defend himself. They can't speak up. She can't mention what she actually felt like or what she thought or how hurt or how upset she might have been with him. We don't know. We can't even surmise because we have no evidence. It's the same reason Republicans defend, unborn fetuses. It's a quiet group that you can protect without any requests from them. The dead don't ask for anything. Ever. So you can invoke their names as a shield, as a protection, and yet they can't speak up for themselves. Dave Chappelle not only attacked the trans community, and specifically trans women, but he also kind of used a dead trans woman's life as a way to protect himself for his fear of canceling. Because Twitter's not a real place, but Dave sure seems afraid of it. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, consider donating to us. You can support us on our website, transgirltherapist.org. You can also help us on our Patreon, link below, or you can become a member here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching.